Today we are starting our first chapter of income tax. The chapter is called Introduction Chapter of Income Tax. This is your first chapter 1.1. There are 3 chapters in chapter 1. First chapter is Introduction, that is 1.1. Second chapter 1.2, that is some basics terms used. Third chapter 1.3, that chapter is reduced from your syllabus due to COVID pandemic. So, we are starting our first chapter, that is Introduction. You know the term of tax, but what is the exact definition of tax? Now, when someone pay money to someone, another person, in that case, in return he gets something. Suppose you are purchasing a book and you are paying for that. In return you are getting the books. When you admitted in our school, you have paid some fees. In return you are now the students of Taltala High School. But in case of tax, if someone pay this tax, in return he personally nothing received by that person. And in case of other examples, that is not compulsory. Now you are purchasing a book, that is your choice which book you want to purchase. But in case of tax, it is a compulsory payment. So, for the definition of tax, we can say it is a compulsory payment to the government. To whom it is paid? It is paid to the government. It is a compulsory payment to the government by the person without any proportionate return. In return, now we are the citizens of India, we are paying tax to the government. Different types of tax are there. We are paying tax to the government, but in return we are not getting anything proportionately. But in return we are getting other things. Now, what is tax? Tax is actually income of the government. When we are paying tax, when the citizens of India paying tax to the Indian government, that is the income or revenue of the government. And actually, government used this revenue for the benefit of general public. Government used these amount of tax for the benefit of the general public. How government used it? First one, government used it for the defense purpose. And second important purpose is educational purpose. And third important purpose is for the treatment purpose of the general public. And the road construction, the bridge construction made by the government with these revenue. So, we are paying tax to the government and government is in return made some expenditure for the benefit of all the person residing in India. That means compulsory payment, this is a compulsory payment, tax is compulsory payment, and in return we are not getting anything proportionately. But as a general, we are getting everything from the government with this tax. Now there are different types of tax. Income tax, our syllabus, our topic or our chapter is income tax. goods and service tax, wealth tax, professional tax, and many other taxes are there. Now, after tax, we are coming to the point fees. Now, what is a fees? Fees is a payment. Fees is also a payment made by a person with an expectation of proportionate return. When someone paid fees to another person, they have an expectation to get some proportionate return. That is called fees. So there is a difference between tax and fees. First difference is tax is a compulsory payment, but fees is not a compulsory payment. And in case of tax, there is no proportionate return, but in case of fees, there is an expectation of proportionate return. Next point is income tax. In case of tax, there are some examples. One of that examples is income tax. Now, what is income tax? Income tax is a tax levied on income of a person. When a tax levied on or tax charged on income of a person, then it is called income tax. Now, suppose a person getting some income by his profession or business. In that case, on his income, some taxes are charged. That is called income tax. Now, what is income? According to the decision of Privy Council in CIT, Bengal, CIT means Commissioner of Income Tax, versus Shaw Wallace Company Limited. This is a case law. If you want to know about the case law, you can search it on the Google. Okay, this is a case law. It happens in the year 1927 and between 1927 and 1929. This is a case between Shaw Wallace and CIT, where income is defined. According to the judgment, income is defined there. According to this case law, income connotes a periodical monetary return. Income connotes a periodical monetary return coming in with some sort of regularity or expected regularity from definite source, which need not be continuously productive, but their object must be the production of a definite return as distinguished from a mere windfall. What is the meaning of this? Meaning of this is what we call as a income. Income means a regular receipt. Income must be a regular receipt. हर महीना एक रिसीप्ट हो रहा है, उससे हम लोग एक्चुअली इनकम कहेंगे. ओके, हर महीना रिसीव हो रहा है. ये जो केस लॉ है ना, CIT वर्सेस शॉ वॉलेस कंपनी लिमिटेड, यहाँ पे क्या था, अ कंपनी शॉ वॉलेस काम करते थे एज एन एजेंट ऑफ बर्मा ऑयल कंपनी. ओके, as an agent from Burma Oil Company, they वहाँ से ऑयल लेके इंडिया पे बेचते थे. लेकिन one fine morning, Burma Oil Company decided for cessation of this contract, and Burma Oil Company क्या किसी और कंपनी को ये एजेंसी दे दिया. और ये जो शॉ वालेस कंपनी है, इनको एक लमसम अमाउंट एज अ कंपेंसेशन दे दिए थे. तो ये जो कंपेंसेशन था, इनकम टैक्स डिपार्टमेंट, दैट इज CIT ऑफ बंगाल, उन्होंने कहा कि ये एक इनकम है. इसी को लेके एक केस था। अल्टीमेटली जजमेंट किसके ऊपर गया? शॉ वाल किसके फेवर पे गया? शॉ वालेस कंपनी के कंपनी के ऊपर, क्योंकि ये जो कंपनसेशन है, ये कंपनसेशन रेगुलरली पेमेंट नहीं हुआ, ये एक लमसम में पेमेंट हुआ था। सो यहाँ पे इनकम किसे कहा जाएगा? इनकम वही होगा जहाँ पे एक रेगुलरिटी रहेगा। रेगुलरली जो इनकम अर्न होगा उसे हम लोग कहेंगे इनकम। Now come to the next point, that is duty. Duty is also a compulsory payment to the government. जो इनकम टैक्स पे था, यहाँ पे भी ड्यूटी इज ऑल्सो अ कंपल्सरी पेमेंट टू द गवर्नमेंट. बट वेयर इज द डिफरेंस? विदाउट एनी प्रोपोर्शनेट रिटर्न, बट it is not based on revenue. Okay, tax is based on, actually tax is based on revenue, either on income or any other types of revenue, but duty is not based on revenue. That means here is also a difference between tax and duty. Tax is based on income or revenue, but duty is not based on revenue. There are different types of duty, such as customs duty, excise duty, etc. Okay. Next is cess. What is cess? Cess is also a compulsory payment to the government without any proportionate return. That means tax, cess and duty are same type. All are compulsory payment to the government without any proportionate return. But in case of cess, there is only one condition, that is, for what purpose this cess is collected, government can make expenditure on that purpose only. What is written here? Only condition is amount collected by way of cess can be utilized by the government only for the purpose in the name of which it is collected. Example, education cess. Suppose government is collecting education cess with income tax. Now, the amount collected for education cess, government can utilize it only for the education purpose. No other purpose government can utilize this amount. Okay, this is called cess. Next point is objectives of income tax. উদ্দেশ্য, ইনকাম ট্যাক্স আর বাংলা হচ্ছে আয়কর। আয়করের উদ্দেশ্য কি? First objective is, this income tax is the main source of revenue of the government. Already I have told that tax is the source of income of the government. And income tax is the main source of revenue of the government. সরকারের আয়ের উৎস, ইনকাম ট্যাক্স হচ্ছে সরকারের আয়ের প্রধান উৎস। ওকে, সেকেন্ড অবজেক্টিভ, দ্যাট ইজ ইনকাম ট্যাক্স ব্রিং দ্য ইকোনমিক ইকুয়ালিটি, অর্থনৈতিক সমতা বজায় রাখা হয়। হাউ ইট ইজ হ্যাপেন্ড? সাপোজ one person earns much more than other person. According to our tax rule, according to our Finance Act, who earns more, he has to pay tax more, and who earns less, he has to pay tax less. So, according to this point, we can say income tax brings the economic equality. Okay. Third point is more savings. Now, what is more savings? বেশি সঞ্চয়. According to income tax rule, there are some funds, if a person invested on that fund, they can get some deduction on his income. I am giving one example. Suppose one person whose income for the year is 5 lakhs and he invested in some funds and he invested rupees 1,50,000. In that case, when his tax will be calculated, these 1,50,000, maximum amount of rupees 1,50,000 is deducted from his income. That means his income was 5 lakhs, 1,50,000 deducted from his income and his income reduced to 3,50,000. These he will get he will pay tax on this rupees 3,50,000, not for rupees 5 lakhs. That means income tax motivate people to make savings. सेविंग्स तो करना है ना फ्यूचर के लिए. अभी जो काम कर रहे हैं वो तो काम करके इनकम कर रहे हैं, लेकिन जब उसका काम करने का ताकत नहीं रहेगा तब क्या करेगा? उसके लिए फ्यूचर के लिए अभी से सेविंग्स करना है. तो इनकम टैक्स यहाँ पे मोटिवेट भी करते हैं. यू आर बाउंड टू डू दिस, क्योंकि सब लोग चाहते हैं कि हम लोग ज़्यादा पैसा क्यों नहीं देंगे, मुझे तो कुछ नहीं मिल रहा है, प्रोपोर्शनेटली डायरेक्टली मुझे कुछ नहीं मिल रहा है गवर्नमेंट से, सो हम क्यों उस टैक्स देंगे. तो टैक्स नहीं देना चाहते हो तो सेविंग्स करो. सेविंग्स करने से तुम्हारा टैक्स कम हो जाएगा. सो इनकम टैक्स मोटिवेट दिस सेविंग्स. फोर्थ पॉइंट इज डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ इनइक्वालिटीज इनकम रिड्यूस्ड. ये हम ऑलरेडी कह चुके हैं इन पॉइंट 2 में. किसी का ज़्यादा इनकम है, किसी का कम इनकम है, तो जो जिसका ज़्यादा इनकम है वो टैक्स ज़्यादा देंगे, तो उसका इनकम क्या होगा, ज़्यादा रिड्यूस्ड हो गया. और जिसका कम इनकम है उसे टैक्स कम देना पड़ेगा और नहीं भी दे पड़ सकता है. इन दैट केस क्या होगा, सपोज किसी का इनकम है 6 lakhs एंड ही इज़ पेइंग टैक्स ऑफ रुपीज़ 50,000. So his income comes to 5,50,000. Another person, his income is rupees 5 lakh and according to Finance Act rule, he is not paying tax. So his income is 5 lakh. Now when they earned, the difference between their income was 1 lakh because first person's income is rupees 6 lakhs and second person's income is rupees 5 lakhs. But after paying tax, the difference comes to rupees 50,000 because after paying tax, first person is paying after payment of tax, income of the first person come to 5,50,000 and income of the second person he is not paying tax, so his income comes to 5 lakh. So difference comes to rupees 50,000 only. And number 5 point is help to maintain the sovereignty. দেশের সার্বভৌমত্ব রক্ষা করে, because we know that income tax is the main revenue of a government and government first use of government revenue is in case of defense. डिफेंस के लिए सबसे ज़्यादा एक्सपेंसेस होता है ऑलमोस्ट फॉर एवरी कंट्री. सो बाहर के से कोई हम लोगों को अटैक करे उसके लिए गवर्नमेंट प्रिपरेशन चाहिए. तो ये जो इनकम टैक्स आता है इससे क्या हो रहा है कि गवर्नमेंट ये प्रिपरेशन ले सकते हैं. ओके, दिस इज़ द ऑब्जेक्टिव ऑफ इनकम टैक्स. Our next topic is brief history of income tax of India. Brief history of income tax of India इसका मतलब क्या है? इनकम टैक्स कब से इंडिया पे शुरू हुआ था, क्यों शुरू हुआ था, उसके बारे में यहाँ पे कुछ जानकारी मिलेगा. ओके, हम लोग हिस्ट्री में ऑलरेडी पढ़ चुके थे कि डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ टैक्सेस आर देयर. तुम लोग चौथा के बारे में जानते हो, डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ खजना थे. तो ये जो था ये भी वन टाइप ऑफ टैक्स था. We know about a person that is कौटिल्य और चाणक्य. Kautilya or Chanakya was the minister of Chandragupta Maurya, and he has written a book whose name is Arthashastra. You know that. In the year 327 BC, 327 BC before Christ, he was the minister at the court of Chandragupta Maurya, and he has written a book named Arthashastra. Here it is also we can learn from this book. This is actually a economics book, but in modern era, from where income tax has started. In the year 1857 AD, you know that this year is very important in our history because সিপাই মিউটিনি, বাংলায় যাকে আমরা বলছি সিপাহী বিদ্রোহ, 1857 হয়েছিল. সিপাই মিউটিনি occurs in the year 1857 AD, and in this movement British government faces a great loss. So after 3 years, in the year 1860 AD, first British government introduced income tax in India, and this income tax is introduced by James Wilson. You have to remember these two. First one is when first income tax started in India in the year 1860 AD, and who started this tax system in India? He is the person whose name is James Wilson. You have to remember this. Underline in your book. From the year 1860 to 1885, there were different amendments on tax, and sometimes their names are also changed. Sometimes its name was license tax, sometimes its name was certificate tax. And in the year 1874, income tax withdrawn by the British government. In the year 1874, British government withdraw this income tax system. Again, in the year 1877, there was a review of tax system, and in the year 1886, new income tax comes into force. That is called Income Tax in India 2. Income tax in India was in 1800. Income tax in India 1, that occurs in 1860, and income tax in India 2, it occurs in 1886. At that time, there are only 4 heads of income. And separate rates of income tax are there. At that time, separate rates are there for these income. These heads are at the time of 1886, there are 4 heads. That is income from salary and pension. That means salaried person and who are getting pension after retirement, they has to pay tax, and their head was income from salary and pension. Second head was income from interest on securities. मतलब जो सेविंग्स करते थे उसके ऊपर जो इंटरेस्ट मिलता था उसे हम लोग इस हेड पे रखते थे, इनकम फ्रॉम इंटरेस्ट एंड सिक्योरिटीज. थर्ड हेड था इनकम फ्रॉम कंपनी प्रॉफिट. कंपनी का जो प्रॉफिट है उसके ऊपर इनकम टैक्स दिया जाता था. एंड नंबर 4th हेड था अदर इनकम एक्सक्लूडिंग एग्रीकल्चरल इनकम. एग्रीकल्चरल इनकम के ऊपर उस टाइम पे टैक्स नहीं लिया जाता था. अभी भी एग्रीकल्चर इनकम के ऊपर टैक्स नहीं लिया जाता है. ओके. In the year 1886 it happens. In the year 1918, first introduction of tax on aggregate of income. We have already said that in the year 1886 there are 4 heads and there were a tax system, different rate for different heads. But in the year 1918 क्या हुआ था, जो देयर आर 6 हेड्स एट दैट टाइम, 6 हेड्स ऑफ इनकम वहाँ पे था, और ये जो 6 हेड्स ऑफ इनकम था, इस 6 इनकम्स के जो एग्रीगेट है, मतलब एडिशन, ये 6 हेड्स ऑफ इनकम को ऐड करके जो टोटल इनकम बनते थे, उसी इनकम के ऊपर टैक्स कैलकुलेट होता था. तो first introduction of tax on aggregate of income, and at that time there were 6 heads. What are those? Income from salary, income from interest and securities, income from house property, income from business, income from profession, income from other source. Okay, these are the 6 heads at that time. In 1922 there was one important amendment. What is that? If in any heads a person incurs loss, ये जो 6 हेड है, इसमें अगर किसी में लॉस होता था, तब क्या किया गया, इस लॉस को कोई भी इनकम से सेट ऑफ किया गया. इन द ईयर 1922 AD ये तैयार किया गया है कि अगर कोई भी हेड पे लॉस है तो वो लॉस को दूसरे कोई इनकम के साथ माइनस किया जाएगा, उसे कहते हैं सेट ऑफ. अभी भी वो सिस्टम है. क्या लिखा है? लॉस फ्रॉम एनी हेड कैन बी सेटल फ्रॉम इनकम फ्रॉम एनी अदर हेड. तो ये जो हम लोग अभी तक कह रहे थे, ये सब था बिफोर इंडिपेंडेंस. बिफोर इंडिपेंडेंस दिस टैक्स सिस्टम कौन बनाया था? ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट. आफ्टर इंडिपेंडेंस, आफ्टर 1947 देयर वाज वहाँ पे एक कमिटी बनाया गया. उस कमिटी का नाम था महावीर त्यागी कमिटी. एंड इन द ईयर 1959 महावीर त्यागी कमिटी submitted a report. After submitting the report, in the year 1961, in April महीना में ये जो बिल है, ये बिल को पार्लियामेंट में प्रोड्यूस किया गया. In April, tax bill submitted in parliament, and when it was passed in parliament in the year 1961, September 13, the bill was signed by the president. उस टाइम जो प्रेसिडेंट थे इंडिया के, डॉक्टर सर्वपल्ली राधाकृष्णन, उन्होंने इस बिल को साइन कर दिए और उसके बाद ये एक लॉ बन गए. नाउ इट इज़ कॉल्ड इनकम टैक्स एक्ट 1961, बिकॉज ये जो बिल है, ये बिल को साइन किया गया है कौन से ईयर पे? 1961 पे. एंड दिस system, this income tax came into force from 1st April 1962. From 1st April 1962, this income tax act came into force. So, from the total history, you have to remember 4 things. One is, first, in which year income tax started in India, that is in 1860. Who started income tax in India? He is James Wilson. And next, name of the tax. The name of the tax is Income Tax Act 1961. and this act came into force from 1st April 1962. ये जो 4 पॉइंट है, ये जो ब्रीफ हिस्ट्री है, ये ब्रीफ हिस्ट्री से ये 4 पॉइंट को तुम लोग अलग से अंडरलाइन करके रखो या कोई कॉपी पे लिख के रखो कि ये 4 पॉइंट तुम लोगों को अच्छा से याद रखना है. ओके, आवर क्लास इज़ ओवर नाउ. तुम लोग अपने बुक्स पे इसको अंडरलाइन करके रखो या नोट डाउन करके रखो जो आज हम लोग पढ़ चुके हैं.